So we settle into our chairs. We know that our chairs support us, just as the floor supports the chair and the earth supports the floor. And as the sacred, the divine supports all. This morning we know that other nations have blue skies too. That other nations have deserts, beautiful deserts like we do, and beautiful mountains. We give thanks this morning for this country, and we give thanks for this world, because it's all connected. This country is not here by itself. It is nested in a world. And within that, we give thanks for who each one of us is and what we bring. We give thanks for the opportunity to rest, to rejuvenate, and to bring back into our lives new energy, new wisdom, new appreciation for all that is. So right now, let's take a couple of minutes in silence as we take these thoughts of rest, rejuvenation, appreciation into our own hearts. As we return our awareness to this place and time, we do so with a deeper knowing of the value of rest and rejuvenation in our lives, knowing that we need that just as much as we need the bubbles, the bubbly energy and vitality, that it all goes together. For this and all else, we give thanks. And so it is. I was laughing so hard for a little while there, I was starting to cry. Just laughing so hard. Yeah, I can come down a little bit. We've tapped into Anne's sound system this morning rather than setting up our own, so we're tinkering with this just a little bit as we go. I think that's fine. That's good. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we are embarking on a new theme for the next 6 weeks as of today, Why I Chose Unity. Right? Why I chose unity. Often people will say to me, you know, when someone comes up and says, what is unity anyway? Or I'm having a conversation with someone about their spirituality of choice, their church, their spiritual community of choice. How do I respond? How do I respond in a way that's not so big I lose them, right? So this is part of that process, is figuring out for ourselves, getting clearer about why we chose unity and what unity is in our lives, so we can start to have those conversations with other people in ways that are real for us, that come from our hearts, and that we don't lose people in, right? So that's where we're headed in the next few weeks. So why I chose unity. Oops, I gotta turn on here. Here we go. The actual official title of my talk today is I Embrace My Spiritual Freedom, or How Did I Get Here Anyway? Right? Why I chose unity. How did I get here anyway? And part of choosing unity for me reflects spiritual freedom. I grew up in a spiritual heritage that was not unity. Who here grew up in unity? Reverend Tony and my kids. Okay, all the rest of us grew up in some other spiritual tradition. And part of our spiritual freedom is we made a choice somewhere along the line to be in a different spot with our spiritual community. So how did I get here anyway? Well, part of the literal way I got here anyway was when I was in Wisconsin, a friend of mine and a fellow I worked with said, I bet you would like unity. Like so many people in the world, I said, what is unity? And another response we often get, I got just a couple of weeks ago in our hiking group, was, oh, is that Unitarian?
Yes.
Okay? And then if we've worked on it in our brains, we can maybe come up with a simple sentence to do a little bit of exploration or explanation of that. And usually mine is that unity and Unitarian came out of the same roots about 120 years ago, they did. Yet Unitarian took a little bit more of an academic direction, and unity took a little bit more of a spiritual direction. That's my simple answer. Right? There are other simple answers, but that's mine. Okay, so that's technically how I got here. But this is how I really got here. Because I made a choice. Because I made a choice to be in another place. And between my spiritual upbringing and unity, there were decades of nothing. Right? And that's not unlike a lot of people in this room, perhaps. There were decades of nothing. Because I knew that what I was brought up in was not mine. It didn't belong to me. This wrathful, vengeful God who would come and get me was...
Taking us away.
If I turn this off.
Will it still record? I can still, it listens to anything. So yes.
I'm just asking her about the recorder.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's just picking up my voice directly?
Right now, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to just turn this off. I think I'm just going to turn it off.
Okay, I have no idea where that came from.
That's fine. We know where it comes from. That's okay, Ann. I'll just leave it off and I'll just speak loudly. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, he's my test. Okay, so I had decades of nothing in which I knew that spirituality I grew up in didn't work for me. And really, I was throwing it away already when I was a teenager. But I was really careful because I remember one time I had a conversation with a teenage friend to this effect. She told her parents, who went to the same church we did, who told my parents. Yes, it got back to me. So I learned to just kind of zip my lip.
Yeah.
And that's not a place we want to be either, is it? Because then we don't get to explore and develop those kind of things that we want to talk about with other people. So anyway, you are free to choose. Or in the words of Dr. Seuss, you're on your own, and you know what you know. And you are the one who will decide where you go. Okay? Spiritual freedom. We get to choose, and we get to choose again. And we get to choose again, wherever we go on that spiritual path. This is Butterworth, who says, "You can do all that Jesus did, and greater things than these shall you do. Along the way, there is freedom for us and abundant living. Along the way, there is freedom for us, spiritual freedom. We don't have to blame ourselves for things. We don't have to feel guilty about things. We don't have to feel like, oh, Jesus could do that, why can't I? Right? The words here, along the way. We are always along the way. There is freedom for us and abundant living. He goes on to say, the important thing is to be faced in the right direction, moving forward. The important thing is to be faced in the right direction. Do you feel like you may be faced in the wrong direction occasionally? I sure do. There are some days, certainly some moments, when I feel like I'm faced in the wrong direction. And if I can get myself shifted back around just in the right direction, that's all. Looking the right way. Looking toward abundance. Looking toward appreciation. Looking toward prosperity. Everything changes. Looking in the right direction. Some days I might not even take a step in that direction. But if I can just be there looking that way, I'm in a much better place. Moving in the right direction. Lessons in truth. We can go to Emily Cady. She's one of our sages, we might say. She lived in the same era that our co-founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore did. And they met each other at a convention in Chicago. And Emily Cady lived on the East Coast. And Charles and Myrtle were in Kansas City. And they met at this New Thought convention in Chicago. And they were all surprised to see how they were so on the same track. Emily was more of a writer than either Charles or Fillmore were. So they asked, and Charles Fillmore had started a magazine already with Unity. So they asked Emily if she would write a series of lessons in truth. And she wrote a series of Unity lessons for their magazine. And then eventually it was put together in this book called Lessons in Truth. So you get a little bit of the big picture of how that works. Emily Cady says, for the first chapter in this book, the first lesson in truth she wrote was entitled, Bondage or Liberty, Which? Okay? Which will you have? Do you want spiritual freedom, or do you want to feel enslaved to something else? The ultimate aim is to come into the consciousness of an indwelling God. Victory must be won in the silence of your own being first, she said. In the silence of your own being. That's where we come to it. And that's where we come back to it when we lose that direction. Right? When we find ourselves facing the wrong direction. It's got to change in here. That doesn't mean there might not be an external influence. Absolutely, there may be an external. Often there is an external influence. Yet we've got to make a choice ourselves. She goes on to say, oh, if we could only realize that this mighty power to deliver and to make alive lives forever within us. Oh, if we could only realize. Oh, if we could only remember that we can tap into our own spiritual freedom anytime we wish to. So it so happens in the middle of June, there was this daily word. Free. I experienced true freedom as I awakened to my spiritual nature. There we are. As I awaken, that's where the true freedom comes from. Our own spiritual nature. That we don't have to be enslaved to somebody else's idea of spirituality. We don't have to be enslaved to whatever we grew up with. If it's not working, we get to set stuff aside. This is what it said. Today I stopped placing limits on my ability to live the life of my dreams. I revel in true freedom as I embrace my spiritual identity. Life becomes sweeter and brighter as I ascend into this new understanding of myself. That freedom is associated with our spiritual identity. That's where our freedom is born and thrives. And in Corinthians, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Where our spirit of our own divinity is, there is freedom. And then yesterday, we had this daily word, independence. I embrace my independence. My spiritual quest includes a calling to free myself from limitations and barriers that slow my progress. That's part of freedom, part of choosing. What do I keep? What do I get rid of? What do I let go of? And then here we have classic unity denial and affirmation. I release perspectives and behaviors no longer supporting me. I embrace those in alignment with my understanding of truth. Relying on the guidance and insight of the divine, I embrace my independence and follow the path to my highest good. I embrace my independence. This whole thing about spiritual freedom and making choices and continuing to make choices day to day about where we want to be and who we want to be. And in Corinthians, like a skilled master builder, I laid a foundation. Each builder must choose with care how to build on it. And this is one of Paul, bless you, and bless you.
Spores.
This is one of Paul's letters to the new churches, right? The church in Corinth. He was writing letters to them, trying to bolster them, right? Saying, you have a church here, you have a community here. I want to be of support to you and I want to help you. So he's speaking in the words of the divine here, like a skilled master builder, I laid the foundation. And Paul helped lay the foundation for these churches. Yet he's saying to them, you now have to choose what you're going to do with this. It is yours to choose. And we are in that absolute same spot. There is a foundation that has been laid. There's a spiritual foundation. There's a Charles and Merle Unity Foundation. We have family foundations. And it's for us to choose what blocks we're going to lay on that now in our lives. And if there are blocks we want to remove. Does anybody have a house with a crumbling corner? You know, sometimes you need to get rid of what's crumbling and replace it. And that's the idea here with denials. Getting rid of what doesn't, telling ourselves, I do not need that anymore. That can go away, and I can bring into my life these new choices. So spiritual freedom makes me think of spiritual curiosity. And last Sunday, I noticed after church, Ruth and Avery were having a conversation about potentially starting a group grounded in, I think, spiritual curiosity. And you know, that is so much a foundation of unity. If Myrtle and Charles had not been spiritually curious, unity would not be here. Well, someone else might have started it. But really, it was their curiosity that got us going. So spiritual curiosity, spiritual freedom go together. Now, Albert Einstein said, I am neither clever nor especially gifted. I am only very, very curious. And he's got lots of quotes like this, where he talks about imagination and curiosity having been his energy source. Sometimes curiosity means looking at things, right, from a little different angle. A little different angle. You know, when a number of years ago, we lived in eastern Siberia for several months and visited a number of museums, and a traditional spirituality there is kind of a mix of Buddhism and shamanism. The Buddhism came in from Tibet, and the shamanism is with the indigenous people. And I had never realized the third eye, it's not like this. It's like this. The representations we saw were a third eye like this. That opened a whole different way of my psyche to think about things. Like this, right? It's a matter of, what does the world look like if I shift my view? I need to shift my view, literally, often. Now, sometimes we get in trouble. We might get stuck somewhere, and we might go, oops, no, this wasn't it. That's okay. That's part of it, right? And it might even hurt a little sometimes. Our spirituality might come up, our curiosity might come up and bite us once in a while. Yet if we don't have that, we're not alive. We're just not alive. And we're not alive spiritually if we don't engage in the curiosity that comes to us. Dorothy Parker, writer, sort of bit of revolutionist in the early and mid 20th century, the cure for boredom is curiosity. There is no cure for curiosity. Nor should there be a cure. Well, the only cure, we might say, is to be curious, is to move with it, to be in that place. So I kind of dreamed up my own daily word the other day. As Zoya said, we had this little 2-day-old kitten we took in, and we kind of half knew what we were doing, as it turned out. And we had him in our house for 4 days, and he was a joy. And so when he passed on Wednesday,
Yes.
we had a sad day or two. And then on, I think it was Friday, I picked up this little booklet, Unity booklet that I had gotten in the mail, and I started reading pieces in here. And I came across a piece on appreciation. This is what I put together, sort of an adaptation of this one piece here. Appreciation, say this with me, I appreciate everything. Okay, this is a little bit of a tough spot to get to sometimes. So, here we go. Our appreciation is our choice of what to believe, where we are placing our faith. As Jesus taught us, it is the energy of faith that creates our earthly experience. It is the energy of faith that creates our earthly experience. Aha! But what of life's more painful experiences? Yes, I hear some deep breaths. See and appreciate the good that is present in physical form or as divine ideas or as the heart-centered power of love. What may seem to be negative experiences can, when appreciated, become important realizations to guide our choices and beliefs in all the moments to come. Isn't that beautiful? That turned my day around. That, before when I had the Butterworth quote about get yourself faced in the right direction, this turned it around. What may seem to be negative experiences can, when truly appreciated, become important realizations to guide our choices and beliefs. And I was able, during that day, I think this was Friday, to move from a place of sadness to a place of appreciation. Zoya went to a birthday party. She comes home with a 2-day-old kitten that the mother walked away from. Did we expect that? Absolutely not. Okay? So here we had this little guy in the house for 4 days. And he was just a joy. So we can take that as
Dry it away. Dry it away.
So we can go to a place of appreciation, or we can stay looking the wrong direction. And you know, sometimes the wrong direction is the right direction for a little while, right? It is. It's the right direction until it's not.